Hello and welcome back to Hospitality Talks Take 2. We had a little bit of tech issues and apologies for this, but thank you very much for rejoining, and I hope that you can hear us now finally. Of some reason, I see the Skype here is still quiet. I don't quite understand what it is, but Abid, can you say something and we know that you're live here?
Absolutely, Sam. This gives a new meaning. We are here to talk about hospitality reboot, but it seems like our technology has had to be rebooted multiple times.
Yeah.
So our apologies to our viewers and to our panel for the delay. I hope our viewers can see us. So if it's okay, we'll get right into it with our first speaker, Nicholas Smith, who's general manager of Jing An Shangri-La in West Shanghai. Welcome to Hospitality Talks, Nick.
Sam, Abid, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for the invite. Mild entertainment, and I guess a lot of us have learned a lot of patience over the last few weeks as things have changed in the world, and we realize that a lot of it's beyond our control these days.
Yeah, patience is one of the things, quite candidly, that I have learned about myself, that I tend to, particularly with these technological challenges that we experience, sometimes it turns out to be a bit of an agitation more than anything else, but we'll all get through that. If nothing else, this chapter is going to make techies out of all of us, whether we want to or not.
Absolutely, I agree.
Sorry, I have to say, one of our viewers, Abdul Bagil, said, "Can see you, I can hear you." So that's good news. We are seen and heard. So I'm very happy to
Perfect.
report this before we worry about this. So I'm just going to put it on the screen to people know that here we are.
Ah, superb. So we're in business in that case.
Yeah.
It seemed like we had some viruses of our own in our computers. We couldn't make them work, but glad to be back. Glad that technology is healthy and everybody is healthy. Nick, you and I were just beginning to talk when we had to restart. I was reading an article earlier today that China air travel is back to 50% of pre-COVID days, which is a great indication, as we all know, that the air travel and hotels are very much symbiotic. They feed off of each other. So can you take a brief moment and tell us about the health of the industry for China, but more specifically, what does Shanghai look like?
Well, we're recovering. It's a busy Shanghai today, and you see it getting busier and busier on a daily and a weekly basis. Our hotel business domestically is around 80% back to normality. Still short lead time and plans not being sort of too drawn out. So on the FIT traveler, we're getting there domestically. Obviously, that's around 50% of our overall business. Meetings and events are still very, very slow, but food and beverage business is back, and the outlets that are fully operational have been enjoying good business, with a lot of people looking to get out, socialize, and at the same time make sure that they're acting responsibly. So we put a number of actions in place to make sure that they feel comfortable with that. But in short, Shanghai is very much back to normal in regards to local business and domestic travel, and we see growth on a weekly basis.
Nick, China went through a true lockdown. How much of that was impacted to Shanghai? What did you see during that time period? I believe the total downtime was about 8 weeks, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. So the main cities, the tier one cities, have had a slower clawback on the business lockdown. And as I was explaining before we came live to some of the gents on the call, we went from 85-90% occupancy around the city and in the hotel to 2 and 3% digits in literally 5 days. So we never closed the hotel, but business is very much on its way back after a very cold couple of months and a very surreal experience of very much nobody around, All of the food and beverage operation closed. Very small numbers around the city, and even traveling through a city that has got 35 million people in it, you felt very much alone.
Yeah, I'm sure those are very eerie feelings. A lot of the larger metropolitan areas have gone through that. Our last session, we had a gentleman from New York City, and if you can imagine walking through Times Square, which I personally have done a gazillion times, and you really have to stop every step of the way trying to navigate the way through. But if you look at Times Square pictures these days, it's pretty empty. And all of us have had to get used to that. But the good thing is, China is in many ways leading the recovery back. Nick, tell us what your focus has been during this pandemic time period and during this downtime.
I think the main focus was obviously to reassess and reevaluate, especially on the health and safety of the team and also the health and safety of the guests as they come back. The shift in attention has been very much on personal space. People want to have more space around them. In addition to that, they want to know what you're doing to make sure that they are safe in your environment. And they've been very keen in what we've done. And that's one of the focuses. Obviously, closing a hotel, making sure you're saving money, making sure that you're not costing the owners too much with regards to ramping down was a learning lesson as well of some of the opportunities in the future of how we can maybe operate, but also making sure that everybody was safe as we go back into business, because obviously with no cure, there's still a lot of precautions that we have to take, and we have to make sure that our guest feels comfortable, and more importantly, our colleagues feel comfortable in servicing our guests, because that's ultimately what we need to be doing for, I would imagine, the next couple of years until a vaccine is coming along.
Nick, that's a great segue. Would you kindly tell us some of the initiatives that you have implemented, some of the changes in the operating model that you are experiencing as you start to welcome the guests back to the hotel, both for associates, but also from guest perspective?
Sure. So you will arrive at the hotel, and before you even arrive in the lobby, you have a temperature check. You are asked to produce the geocached QR code that's available in China, and I believe that will be being produced for anybody that's going to be traveling through China in the future. And that's ultimately the gate to get into the building. It's the same. It's no different back of house. So you walk in through the staff entrance, you have to go through the same experience as our guest does, even as a colleague coming back in. And that allows us to establish, even with the casuals and with the contracted staff that have been maybe traveling further afield, we can understand where they've come from and whether they are able to come to work and they're in a safe environment. So that the quarantine of anybody that's been outside of the city was running at 14 days. Now we're the province city, the actual border is open, so people are allowed to now move much more freely, and that's why business has come back so quickly. But we still go through a set of procedures. When it comes to looking after our public space, they're still being refreshed every 20 minutes. We have a team that are doing that in PPE. And we also have our colleagues that are working in housekeeping and our colleagues that are working in food and beverage that all mandatorily have to wear a mask. The team that are cleaning the rooms have PPE also. And we're using certain chemicals and certain UV treatment to make sure that the rooms are fresh and healthy for the next guest that is coming in.
Nick, I'll turn it over to Sam in a bit, but relative to cleaning rooms or cleaning the hotel, generally, hotels have been cleaned every single day throughout our lives or throughout the lives of the hotel. are there standards that the government is implementing, or is it just up to each of the hotels to clean the way they feel most comfortable?
I believe that the government has set very simple, easy to understand standards, especially with regards to air conditioning, circulation, treatment of filters, treatment of certain spaces within, the overall air circulation quantities and volume all have to be monitored, and we are checked on a weekly basis with regards to that. Those are sort of the main directions from the government. However, within the hotel, and I think within the general society, as we feel it now, is everybody expects you to be wearing a mask in a public area. It's become normal. You stand up from a table at a restaurant, you put your mask on. You walk around in public space, you're wearing a mask. The government have even said that they were happy to relax that, but people are still following that. The outdoor space is much more popular because of the airflow, and people feel more comfortable. But cleaning in the rooms, there has been a number of hotels that obviously, and different companies that have offered certain pledges, and I think that that's the new norm. That's what people are going to expect, and they're going to expect it to be clean and refreshed in a particular way. And that promise, I think, is important for all of our guests as we move forward.
Superb, superb. Since you started operating, have you heard any feedback from the guests and or associates that you can share?
I think it's very interesting that brand loyalty and comfort with the bigger brands is certainly present. A lot of people that are coming to use us is because there's a certain reputation associated with it. And I've been speaking to a number of my other colleagues in the city, and you notice that with the bigger brands that they're benefiting. There's obviously there's some price sensitivity that a lot of our guests are aware of, and corporates are also being very open. They're saying our business is also not bad. We still want to give you business, but can we work as partners moving forward? And that's something that we're embracing. On the colleague side of things, they obviously understand that we're in difficult situations, and it's been true hospitality. I can honestly say from my heart that you see a lot of our team working in areas and helping one another, because we're trying to mitigate a lot of the cost that we're costing when we're not making as much revenue. And it's been great to watch chefs washing down kitchens and cleaning out dishwashers when they're used to having a team of stewards that maybe are running behind them before. That's been very healthy to see.
Terrific. Over to you, Sam.
Well, thank you, Nick. I'm very glad to hear how things are going for you there. And just a comment about the masks. I found that in Asia it's quite typical that you wear a mask not only to protect yourself, but you are not selfish. If you're not wearing a mask, it means that you are selfish. So I think it has also a statement that you are considering other people besides yourself. And I found that out as sort of comments from my friends in Asia, that what is really also in their inner meaning of using a mask. But a question actually I'm interested in is that you have a very successful loyalty program called the Golden Circle. So I was wondering how that program is working for you now, considering that you are open now, and what kind of business do you get through that loyalty program to your hotel?
Well, the domestic market is very healthy with Golden Circle. We have a lot of our guests are returnees, and they like to go back to their homes. And Golden Circle is one of our more important guests, obviously, because we know them and we know them well. A lot of them have been very happy to come back and come back home, so to speak, away from where they travel. But equally, Sam, we have a lot of our members that have never left us, and they actually used us as their harbor of safety during the crisis. We have some 5 guests that have been here with me since January, and they've not left. And they're based elsewhere in the world, but their business is here in China, and they've chosen to stay with us.
That's very good. I read something also that you have in your loyalty program. You have sort of blanket status extension, so you're extending the benefits for a longer period of time because what has happened.
Yeah, we've kept the tiering all the way through to the end of next year. Obviously, we recognize that a lot of where we've had some guests that have been staying with us for extended times, which is unusual. We have a lot of guests that we're missing, and we're not seeing, and we get messages from them, and they're reassuring that we're looking forward to coming back. But obviously, with the borders being closed, a lot of them are not able to travel. We have a huge percentage of repeat guests on a weekly basis that are coming in from Singapore and Hong Kong, and they're here for 2 or 3 days, and then they go home for the weekends or travel on to another destination. And obviously we're not seeing those at the moment, which is keeping our business at around the 50% mark.
Yeah. One of the slogans you have in your website is experiences you design. Considering what has happened, what defines the customer experience from your point of view? What do you see happening now, and what are the expectations, the design of that experience that people are now looking forward to?
Well, Sam, it's a great question, and one of the things that I picked up on in preparation for today is we've noticed an exponential growth in the use of our sports and health facilities. It is very clear that people are much more conscious, probably after this pandemic has come out, and they want to look after themselves better. The small touches in the room of giving them some new masks, giving them some healthy juice, and making them, replenishing their favorite fruit or whatever it may be, works very well. And those are sort of touches that you would expect from the hospitality perspective. But we also have this appetite for them to be able to be outside, and we've tailored that to a number of our guests, but also a number of our regular guests, as I've indicated, that have been with us for a prolonged period of time. A lot of them have missed their family dishes, and our chefs have gone out and spoken with them, and they've cooked mum's noodles, or we've got one guest who is a European, and he just wanted beans on toast. Yeah. And we went out and we made it for him. So it's simple stuff like that after being in a place for 4 months that you remember. But no, sports and health is very much a theme that we see coming through with a desire to improve themselves and to make themselves healthier. And then also al fresco dining. That's ultimately the biggest hit that we've had. Our outdoor spaces has been absolutely inundated with people just wanting to be there. Even if it's a little windy, they'll put a jacket on, they'll put a jumper on, and they'll still stay outside because they have that perception of it being healthier.
Very good. I also read that you have the Team Lab exhibition at the hotel. Is that right?
Yeah.
How is that? Is that a feature that's for a longer period of time, or is it something that you have put together now recently? We have a program that we did running up to the end of last year. We took a purpose gap, and then we actually moved into it being relaunched some 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, and that will now run through until the end of the summer. Yeah.
And again, it's very important for people to be engaged and to do some interesting activities. We've even put on an outdoor market at the weekends to draw in traffic and to draw in people to be activated, and yoga sessions in the morning in the piazza. With 45 people that maybe have never come to this area, they're interested in having those experiences.
Oh, that's terrific. We have a question for you. Abdul Bagil, he's asking, Asia is very well known for gracious and quality service. Have you cut back in touch points? Moving forward, what are your plans with the hotel breakfast buffet? We've obviously had to adjust certain aspects of service. One of the areas, and you touch on it, is our breakfast buffet is open, but we had to go out and arrange for sneeze guards, covers. Everything is individually prepared, and we actually have covers on all of the items, and our chefs will serve it to you.
rather than you being able to serve yourself, and a lot more a la carte dishes being offered. Obviously, with the occupancy being a little lower, we're able to personalize that, but also make sure that it feels a lot healthier from a touch perspective. Even if you order eggs or an omelette, it'll come to your table with a cloche over the top, and we have a full set of procedures with regards to that. Even little signs with people with masks on the buffet, just to remind people that they should be wearing their mask if they're walking around the restaurant and not sitting at their table. And a lot of pass-around items that are covered that we offer to the guests. So on the cutbacks, on a bedrooms perspective, we haven't changed anything. Yeah, we give the service, and obviously with the guests that are coming in, we try to actually personalize a little bit more, because although it's not great for business that we're only running at 40-50% occupancy, it means that our team can focus on our guests a little bit more intently.
Well, exactly. I think that's really the way to go. I mean, I was watching one of the sort of the man who is very famous for branding. He challenges companies who are saying, well, we are waiting for normal to happen. He says, well, what if normal happens in 5 years? What are you going to do now? So that he's challenging them to saying, well, look at every step of your customer journey from pre to during and after. What can you do differently that you haven't done before, which provides better value, maybe even far better value than ever before? So that's what gives this unprecedented time a good opportunity to do things different that you may have not considered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of things to be learned about talking to your guest in the lobby and listening to some of their concerns and some of their comments, from air conditioning flow to not wanting to take a taxi anymore, to adjusting your limousine prices to make it more approachable, but at least they feel they're safe.
Yeah. My final question before I hand over to Abid is that I understand that Disneyland has reopened, at least partially. Does that have any effect on business coming to your hotel, or is that, because I'm not quite familiar with the location to Disneyland to where you are located?
To be honest with you, Sam, I think it just sends a message that the city is open for business.
Yeah.
When you have such a big player that has opened the doors, and with all of us, we are being very cautious in the numbers of people that we're allowing into our restaurants. Capacities are reduced. Same at Disney, their capacity is reduced. Children's Day is coming up next Monday, and they're at maximum capacity, which is 35% of their normal load. So I think that it's important also for us to communicate to our customers, and also the audience today, is that it takes baby steps. You can't be greedy at the beginning, because people may get frightened with what you're doing, and large crowds have attracted quite a lot of attention of people just feeling a little uncomfortable and maybe not frequenting that space.
Yeah.
So there's that to think about as well. But no, the message is very clear: is that we're open for business, as is Disney, and we're looking forward to the border opening and also welcoming back all of our international guests as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Nick, for your input and great information you're sharing. We have some questions coming up, but I'll save them for our Q&A later on. So over to you, Abid.
Great.
Thanks. A couple of last questions before we bring our next guest on, Nick. Tell us, recovery-wise, which business segments do you see coming back sooner than the other? Or do you see any changes? How you would attract the guests moving forward?
Sure. I think the domestic business, from a corporate perspective, is coming back, but it's very clear that the pharmaceuticals are very much in the forefront of everybody's mind at the moment. There's a lot of attention there. All of the smaller meetings that we are getting are from the pharma section, and I think that will continue. There is an appetite for retail, and we're in the fashion district where we are at Jing An Shangri-La, and that's been very buoyant, and the appetite for Fashion Week coming up, Film Week coming up, which is going to be online, is still there, and there are still events around that, and we're having to adjust to service those events in a slightly different way. But those are the main areas for ourselves. I think the slower markets that will return is long distance business travel. I believe the world has had an unrequested lesson in how to do business online. And I think just like us at the beginning have had their experiences with technology. And that's something that's been very interesting is we have actually gained some business from that side of things due to the size of the internet connection that we have. So people want seamless internet connection. And we've had a number of events like we're doing today, live events, which they want to have that uninterrupted bandwidth and make sure that they're clear to their customer. One of the areas that has exploded in literally the last month is live selling and online selling platforms for any products that you can think of, and influencers selling into the home or into the office during the day, and that's from anything from food and beverage items all the way through to consumer goods, and it's become very interesting because that's all there was for 2 months. And so it's become the new normal that you go on your phone and you watch a live broadcast, and the live broadcast is evolving. Now they're able to go outside and show you some products that you have never seen before. So there's online shopping even when people are sitting in the office or sitting at home still.
Well, truly, we are all adopting new ways of conducting business and new ways of staying together. I think at the end of all this, some of us, I can speak clearly for myself, we're going to have a bit of tech fatigue, that we want to put this technology down because, look, human beings are social beings. At the end of the day, we want to be together. We want to be going to Disney parks because supposedly they're the happiest places in the world. So we do want to be together as colleagues, as business partners, as families. And I think it's just a matter of time that we will be back, and it's very encouraging to see all the trends coming out of China. Thank you for sharing that. Please stay with us. There are lots of other questions, but I'm going to bring our next guest on at this point. Going from a metropolis of Shanghai, we are going to a sprawling resort in Langkawi. Welcome, Arnaud Girodon, who is the general manager of the Datai in Langkawi. Welcome to Hospitality Talks.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much, Sam, for inviting me.
Well, thanks for joining us. So tell us about Malaysia, Arnaud, and also specifically about Langkawi as to how things are improving. Just a very brief update on the country and the island itself.
Well, it's a stark difference from Nicolas, that's for sure. The country is still under what it's called here a conditional movement control order, CMCO. And that means that although people are allowed to come out of their house and do shopping and also go to offices, etc., they are not allowed to travel interstate. So it's coming back very, very slowly. The movement control has been a little bit released from the 4th of May. And Malaysia is very much in a very, very slow pace, starting to go back to the new normal now. In Langkawi, being an island, totally secluded, well, 60% of their business is tourism. So obviously in Langkawi it's extremely slow. Nothing has really picked up again. Restaurants are open, but there is no tourist. So it has still that effect of doomsday, unfortunately. And that's going to take at least until interstate travel resumes, and we won't know before the 6th or 7th of June whether that's the case or not.
Well, I think, Arnaud, the good thing or the encouraging thing is people from larger cities, whether it's Kuala Lumpur or Shanghai or Beijing, they are going to be absolutely ready to come and visit you the soonest flights begin and soonest the borders open.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
it, Particularly Datai, it is an institution of a resort that has been around for a very long time. Tell us what your guests have communicated with you and how you've stayed in touch with your associates, but also your guests.
We've created series of videos which we post on a weekly basis, twice a week videos and for our guests, and once a week videos to our employees, where we keep them a little bit, the employees, we keep them informed about the situation, because obviously a lot of reassurance needs to be given to our employees. They feel very, very insecure. I mean, we have 486 employees full-time. It's not a small amount of workforce, and obviously they are feeling very insecure. The guests on the other end, we wanted to do something a little bit different. Datai is very much known for its integration to nature. It's a 50 acres property right in the middle of a primary rainforest, one of the ancient in the world, with a great beach. So we wanted to show our guests, the animals coming back. Meanwhile at the Datai was the core of the mini-series, where it was a little bit of on the humorous side about the wildlife really thriving during this time where we are on the other end inside. Yeah, so that was very, very well received. And we also communicate on a personal basis, especially for our regular guests. We have about 50% of our business are regular guests. So we communicate more on a personal basis, either via WhatsApp, because we've established a relationship, or via email, if there are more allies in such a matter, or even phone call. So that is also something that we do on a very regular basis, and it's very, very important.
You bring up an excellent point, Arnaud. If there is anything good that has come out of it, I think the Mother Earth has rejuvenated itself. A lot of the larger cities, whether it's Los Angeles or Jakarta or Shanghai or Beijing, a lot of the larger cities that were going through some terrible pollution issues, they have clear skies right now. In marine life and flora and fauna in a lot of the areas has flourished. Even a place like Bosphorus, I was reading an article, the marine life there is flourishing. So you bring up an excellent point that maybe the world or Mother Earth has had a bit of a break, and we will come back much better and much stronger. And your place would be perfect for people to come and visit. So tell us about market potential trends, if you would, Arnaud, and I will turn it over to Sam after this. Tell us what kind of markets will come back first. What are you seeing in the country?
Right. Well, it's going to be a gradual process. One thing is for sure is that because of the fact that only interstate travel and no international traveling will be allowed, we are going to focus on a local market or Malaysian market for at least a good month, 2 or 3 months basis. And after that, like Sam was mentioning earlier, that travel bubbles are going to be created in between certain countries. We believe that Singapore will be the first travel bubble to be created. There is going to be a travel bubble with China, perhaps South Korea, maybe in 3 or 4 months down the road, Australia, New Zealand, Japan. So it's going to go that process. Obviously, Malaysian market and local market is not really at all, again, like China. You can't really count on it for more than 20% of your business. And that, regardless whether it's a resort or a city hotel, Malaysia is extremely dependent on international traveling, whether it's for business traveling or leisure tourism. We are going to continue for the data. Is always going to be FIT. Whether it's local, regional, or international. And that's still going to be our focus. The advantage of the Datai, and that's why we are not going to change that in any way, shape, or form, and we're going to actually focus and even put more emphasis on it, is that people are going to be in need of seclusion, privacy, they're going to be in need of nature, they're going to be in need of wellness and well-being, and they're going to demand a very strong action on sustainability. This is all something that we've been doing at the Datai for the last 5 years. It's been reinforced with the recent renovation. So the focus is going to very much be on those aspects, on top of obviously the privacy aspect and the health and safety aspect, which is going to be put forward by default with the new situation.
Terrific. I'll come back to you in a second. Let me hand it over to Sam at this point.
Well, thank you, Abed. I have a question about your digital marketing. I mean, how you are present in reaching out to your potential customers or to your customers utilizing social media. Could you share what are your activities in that space?
Sure. We are extremely active on mainly two platforms, being Facebook and Instagram. Unfortunately, we are not very popular on Twitter. That's for other people. We are also extremely active, obviously, on online travel site, which obviously at the moment is not really helping much. But yeah, Instagram and Facebook very much so. Because of our type of customers we do have, a lot of them, about 40% of our business are of 60 years old and above. So they prefer more direct communication. Email is still very much their preferred format, or even direct phone call. However, it's changing a lot too. So Instagram and Facebook have been extremely busy lately. And again, all the videos that we are taking about nature, all the videos that we are taking about animals, and all the videos we are taking about fauna and flora are shared through those platforms. And we have about 15,000 comments that are received every time we post a video, which is not too bad for an hotel of 122 keys.
That's excellent. I mean, is that something do you outsource this portion of somebody taking care of that,
No.
Or you do it in-house?
Yes. We have a full e-commerce manager on board. This is something we are taking care of ourselves. So we can also control better the message. And because today, especially on Instagram, it's all about immediate, they would like to see really videos that are real and that are not automatically being cut and edited. And it has to look as real as possible.
Yeah.
So we have our own team taking care of that.
Well, as you might imagine, I'm quite interested in digital marketing and how video is making. And of course, I want to take a look at your Instagram site or the account, which has close to 15,000 followers. So it's a statement of you're doing something very much right. And particularly what I liked is that you're taking advantage of Instagram for what it should be, to providing videos, because people are preferring videos. And then do you take them to a nature walks, or there's a chef there, or there's something going on. And I was really impressed. And I think this is a message to all the hotels who has a Instagram account where you post the drink of the day, and you leave that 5 posts sitting there forever. Take a look at what these guys are doing, because I think there's a lesson to be learned. So I just want to compliment you here in this live stream of the activities that you are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Then just on the operational initiatives, what are the things that has? Are you open for business, or you're not open at the moment?
No, we still close until interstate travel resume.
Yeah.
Which we we're going to be on the 9th of June, so we will open on the 12th of June if it's resuming on the 9th.
Yeah. So can you maybe share some things that you will be now introducing for the time when you're opening again, which is becoming that, if for lack of a better word, the new normal for you?
Oh, no. Yeah, I also hate that word. I hope it's not going to be a new normal. For now, at least, we're going to have to deal with this situation. Well, I think Nicolas touched very, very, deeply on all the hygiene measures that hotels will have to take, and obviously, Datai is no different. And the focus will have to be first on reassuring guests about the cleanliness and the hygiene, health, and safety standards of the resort. And again, like Nicolas was saying, because we are an independent property, we're going to have to demonstrate even more, right? So a few videos going to be created in order to show exactly what we take and steps that we take from guest arrival to guest dining to serving drinks. What we also do in the back of the house, all of that to reassure guests that they're coming at the right place, and this place is actually very, very safe. And the other things we'll have to consider is how are we going to streamline the operation to be able to cope with an amount of business that is only going to be between 20 to 30% for foreseeable future of the next 2 to 3 months until at least some travel bubbles are reinstated. And how we're going to be able to manage a property that is 50 acres, where rooms are minimum 120 square meters and villa that are 250 square meters all the way to 4,000 square meters, without suffering too much of operational cost. And that's also going to be the trick. And the last and not least is how can the Datai experience, which has been at the key of our success for the last 5 years, and even more so after the major renovation we've just been through, is going to be kept despite of all these measures of either cost saving in a way, although I really don't like this word, because it is not really the case, and also hygiene, health, and safety standards. Yeah. And I think this is where the real challenge is, because people will expect to have the Datai standards the way the Datai standards have been serving them for the last few years.
Yeah, I think I read on your website that you are saying that the hotel will be not occupied for 24 hours after the previous guest left. So I think that gives sort of maybe a signal that how much
That's
care
right.
You will take care of before the next guest is arriving.
Yes, I mean we are lucky to be able to do that. I mean, and also I'm only opening villas product, right? We are very lucky because we have a total of about 60 villas that we have on the ground. Each villas are individual, so this message will have to put across because you have your own villa, you're extremely secluded, you have your own pool of half of the inventory of those villas, and we are putting 24 hours in between each guest to give that extra level of safety. We have to really go all the way when you are an independent hotel because, like Nicolas was mentioning earlier, and that's very true, a lot of guests would be more comfortable, unfortunately or fortunately, it doesn't really matter, to go into international chain on the safety front. So we've got to go over and above the call of duty per se to reassure guests of our protocols.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And now I'll go back to you, Abid.
Arnaud, unlike an urban location, in a resort, the guests require very high touch. They're there. They essentially are spending all the time there. They're dining there. How would you provide that personalized luxury service while we're living with this virus?
It is really the challenge. There are a couple of steps that we're gonna have to take to make sure that guests feel a bit more safe. And one of those steps is anything to do with paper in the room, right? So we're going to have to limit the amount of paper that we place in a room. And as we know, a resort is all about information and brochures about the spa or brochures about activities, etc., etc. And now suddenly all of that will have to be digital. So thank God we've created a special Datai app before where, most of the newsletter, for example, will be uploaded onto our specially created application. Room service menu will also be placed into this application and also on the TV, on the IPTV format. So that's one of the things that we're going to have to change from a standard which used to be paper because we like to touch and feel paper, and that's all about luxury, into a digital world. And unfortunately, you're going to have to do that. And that's where health and safety has to take over some of your quality standards, and you don't have a choice. Having said that, all our restaurants are all open air, which is a big thing. No air conditioning system whatsoever, so that reassures the guests further. And because of the fact that we are secluded, it's all about nature, we have not really restricted any standards that were in place before. We continue going to do our nature walks. We are going to continue doing our sustainability walks and sustainability initiative, where we have been very much at the forefront of that over the last 2 years. We are going to very much encourage guests to do one-to-one, health activity, whether it's a personal training, yoga, Tai Chi, Reiki, Pilates, instead of group. Obviously, we can't do groups, and you don't want to wear a mask when you do yoga. It's already hard enough. So spa is a question mark whether government will allow spa to be open. If it is open, and they allow spa, we are going to continue to provide spa. And our food and beverage will operate as normal. The only thing we are not going to do is buffets. We're going to do a very, very classy a la carte breakfast, champagne breakfast. And but otherwise, we are going to really make sure that we limit any disruption of our standards, which are not against health and safety in a very big way.
And you're absolutely correct. While the brands are communicating very actively over a broader base, over multiple hotels, the independents are going to have to make sure that it's done on an individual basis. But the communication is undoubtedly the key to make sure that we're able to gain the consumer confidence that everything is being looked after for them. One last question before I bring up our next guest. Anything in particular you have done to keep the associates engaged? Any training initiatives that you might have implemented during this time period?
Oh, yes. Well, first, during the close down of the property, we had to, an hotel of this size, not in terms of rooms, but in terms of ground, had to be really maintained. So it was fascinating, and it was really heartwarming to see every single staff members really putting their sleeves up from any department to suddenly become gardeners, suddenly cleaning the beach and the island around, cleaning rooms, really cleaning back of the house. So that was done continuously for the last 2 months. Then now for the last 3 weeks, we have intensified our training extremely heavily, where is a new normal again, for lack of a better word for now. I've been really put in place in a lot of training format, whether it's classroom training on induction program or on the ground training. So we have to create a lot of different SOPs, and now it's really a lot of role play training. So they've been doing that for the last 3 weeks to 1 month now. And we are intensifying that even further because we feel that we're going to reopen on the 12th of June. So this is really something that we have taken a big step towards, because the new reopening is hopefully coming soon.
Hopefully, because all of us and all of our guests are absolutely waiting so that they will be able to go and visit different places. Experiences are innate in us, so I think it'll be a matter of time before people are knocking down your doors and calling you to be able to get there. Thank you so much, Arnaud.
Thank you very much.
Around, please. There are other questions. I think this is a fabulous segue to bring our next guest from who operates in an island resort destination, but an urban hotel. Please welcome Brian Connelly, who is the general manager of Marco Polo Plaza in Cebu. Welcome to Hospitality Talks, Brian.
Well, good evening, Abbott and Sam. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Brian, just a very quick update on Philippines and a brief update on the island and the city. Tell us what things are like right now.
Okay, well, we're at the bottom of the V, sort of to quote Nicholas. We're hoping that on June 1st, pretty much the whole country will be opening up to what is either the lowest or the second lowest quarantine level. So we'll see a rebound now in terms of, we're hoping domestic travel, flights will be started again, hotels will be allowed to take guests, restaurants will be allowed to take up to 50% of their seating in terms of dining. So we're really excited to see this turnaround. We know it'll be a long, hard, journey back to whether it's the old normal, new normal, but we'll get there. But this is the first step in the right direction, moving towards bringing back tourism and getting hospitality back on its feet. For the island of Cebu, we have a unique sort of range of industries on the island. Tourism is the primary one. So we're hoping that will get back on. Cebu is the second largest city in the country after Manila, and it's a big commercial hub for the Visayas area and the Mindanao area. So we're hoping to get the corporate segment, as well as what we call the business process outsourcing. The call centers also will get back on their feet and start producing more business as well.
Well, Brian, you are probably one of the hotels that never really shut down. Not only that you didn't shut down, your occupancy stayed very healthy, yet you are having to operate with different standards. Can you help us understand how have you been able to manage the two?
Okay. Well, basically, we're about a kilometer and a half away from the IT park, which is where all the call centers are. And the call centers had to continue to operate because they're serving clients around the world. And what we did was we made packages for various call centers to house their agents with us. So we run between 60 to 80%, some days 85% for these call centers. And what we've done is we've created special menus for them. We've had special events for them, all within the health and safety regime in terms of social distancing, scanning for temperature, hand sanitizer washes upon coming into the hotel. So we've had to balance that health and safety with a fairly busy hotel. The only difference is these clients work at night. So around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, they're all going to sleep. And around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock around now, they're all going to work. But that's been a very good piece of business for us. And while we hate to see them go, we suspect that as the country opens up, that business will start shifting back to the traditional living at home and taking a bus to work.
Brian, what has your food and beverage offerings been? You have these folks that are working in the evenings, so it would have had to change regardless. But with the COVID, how have your F&B offerings changed or evolved?
Well, most of our food and beverage outlets are closed, with the exception of our breakfast room, which is a sort of a semi-continental with prepackaged items and an a la carte for your hot dishes. We have our lobby lounge, which is open for a very simple menu to offer to the guests that are staying in the hotel. one of our clients actually was working in their rooms because of our quality of our internet access. They were staying in the room, and we provided them 3 meals a day, and the meals were delivered to the room and left outside the room. The guests would take it, bring it inside, and then place it back outside later. So we have a lot of local food, a lot of simple food, but yet we also offer international fare from pizzas, pastas, burgers, etc. So we're hoping with time, we're going to open our Chinese restaurant soon, as well as our outdoor venue, which is called El Viento. There, we're going to repurpose the pool deck and move a lot of the sun loungers away and place tables out there because, as both gentlemen before me mentioned, the alfresco dining is a very attractive option for guests, seeing that it's a more healthy, fresh air. So we'll be expanding the restaurant into the pool area. So that'll be a nice addition to the offerings. But for now, we're only able to offer delivery and takeaway. So we're hoping with the new move next week, we'll be able to offer in-house dining as well as takeaway and delivery.
Brian, I'll turn it over to Sam in a bit, but tell us what your focus has been relative to attending to your guests, servicing in a different environment, yet preparing for the country and city to open up. What have you been focusing on?
Well, the primary thing is health and safety of our guests, our associates, and our suppliers, and making sure that everything that's coming into the hotel is sanitized, the guests are safe, keeping our entire team, because we've actually lived in. This Sunday, it'll be 65 days that we've been in lockdown. We're not allowed to leave. We don't go anywhere. The same crew has been living in the hotel, taking care of these guests. And while we've been doing that, we're also trying to figure out how to repurpose various operations that will not be able to be very busy after the opening of the country. For example, banquet space. We're looking at repurposing that for call centers, satellite offices. How can we offer that to some of the call centers as a satellite office so they don't have to have everybody going into one location, which then they can do their social distancing. They'll need extra space. We're looking at, we've got a fairly large balcony, repurposing that into sort of an outdoor banquet space. Our gift shop, which was a pretty traditional hotel gift shop with curios and gifts to take home to family, has become somewhat of a boutique 7-Eleven to offer to our guests as well as the residents that live in the area, so they can stop by. They don't have to go all the way into town. So a lot of it has to do with repurposing, trying to figure out new revenue streams. We've come up with something called a Zoom wedding. It can only allow 25 people to meet. So that would be the immediate family. Then with our internet access, we enable them to have a Zoom wedding where they can talk to all their friends and family around the world who can't come to the wedding, but at least they can toast the bride and groom from wherever they are at whatever time it is, to give the bride and groom a toast.
Well, I think weddings typically a pretty stressful time. I think adding technology in the middle of it, I don't know if it makes it more stressful or not. But
after tonight, I don't know either. But we're working on it. We'll be having our first Zoom wedding hopefully in a few months. So we'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, please do let us know how that's working out. Over to you, Sam.
Oh, a lot of great value you're providing to us today. One question is, what do you expect to be your greatest challenge as business increases, and how will you manage it when that time comes around?
Well, we hope the greatest challenge will be getting that business. The country's 7,000 islands, and everything is done by flights. So we are very dependent on air travel, both for international, domestic, and regional travel. So once the airlines start flying again, that'll be the exciting time. We have a very active airport. It's a beautiful airport. They're actually going to put a fully licensed testing center right in the airport. So you'll be able to land and you can get tested and be cleared to go right off to the once it opens up. So we're hoping that will open by the middle of June. And so that's the biggest thing for us in terms of a challenge. Domestic business will be good. We'll continue to be successful there. Regional come on slower. And I think Arnaud mentioned those travel bubbles. For us, it might be Taiwan or Japan or Korea. That may be some of the first that are allowed to come into the country. Our biggest market segment is China, and I suspect eventually that'll be there. Second largest is Korea, and with Korea is now fairly strong in terms of their controls and their successes, we suspect that that'll be another market that will open up soon.
Yeah, and for that business to come in, and you see that that's going to be a challenge to get that business. How will they book? Is it the third-party bookings or is it direct bookings? So what is your business model, or what is the split, for instance?
Our business model is, we have 30%, 35, 40% of our customers are corporate, so that'll be through RFPs and the like and saber and all that. And then we've got a lot of OTA business, working with our partners in the OTAs to drive, that would be your FIT business. We do a lot of tourist series business with our partners in Japan and Korea and in China. So there's a lot of tourism vis-a-vis tour series. So we have a nice smattering of a lot of different market segments. And the whole thing is to put that puzzle together to make it work.
Yeah.
We've also got airline crews. So we have a little bit of everything. So we're like a bibimbap, it's kind of that big mix. And when you put it together right, it really works well.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So I mean, in that sense, you're not relying on one source of business. In fact, I mean, that's what you say,
Yes,
quite
sir.
good for you. Yeah.
That's right, Sam.
Because there are some discussions around in the industry, that if the corporate and the meeting and incentive businesses, it's going to take time before it rejuvenates. Then how do I get the FITs, and what are the FITs like? Are they going to be the digital nomads who are coming in and they will stay put for a while and work 3 weeks and before they move on, or are they going to be couples or families or friends that just come and travel on their own to explore, and that the Cebu is on their bucket list and that they haven't been before? So I'm most curious to see your view on this, finding a way how to reach those people who may not consider Cebu to be the obvious place for the holiday.
Well, we have a fairly good reputation as an island. It's been, we may be the third sister of Phuket and Bali in terms of a larger island that offers mountains and streams and waterfalls all the way to some of the most beautiful diving in the world, as well as a very good corporate center for half of the country or 2/3 of the country. This is where you center to do business for the rest for that 2/3 of the country. The BPO business is becoming bigger and bigger. That will continue to be a major driver in terms of growth. Property development is also very big. Our owners are also into property development. We're the sort of the centerpiece of a development here with 4 towers of residential condominiums, with a 4th tower which will open up shortly, and the 5th one down the road. So again, it's that combination of customers and industries that will bring different people in. Very good retirement place, just in case anybody's thinking of retiring. Please think about Cebu. Great weather and great value. But yeah, no, it's an interesting island in the sense that it's got that mix. We're not 90% tourism. We're not 90% corporate. There's that blend between us and Mactan, which is where the sister hotel of Nicholas is, the Shangri-La, which has got some beautiful beaches there. So we've got that really unique concept.
Very good. Okay, thank you. And back to you, Abid.
Brian, tell us some of the training efforts and retooling efforts that you have had to do with your associates to prepare them for this new operating model that you talked about, from taking temperature as people come in into the hotel, whether it's vendors. So tell us how you've had to train everybody.
Well, it's fortunately we were, I think we have always been a very strong hotel in terms of health and sanitation. We have a hygiene manager who checks food temperatures and takes samples. So we've already been sort of into that. And our hygiene manager has now expanded her sort of repertoire, her area, to now include this new normal. We're in the process, because we're still fairly new into the whole pandemic, and we're just coming out of that V. There's still a lot of us are still learning about what we need to do. And so that's part of the training now, is deciding what is that new normal going to be. Do we need to have a mini bar? The government's saying no mini bars, no turn down service. but how do we maintain that corporate standard and balance in terms of providing the service that our guests expect and want to have, because that's what comes with going to a Marco Polo. So there's that still a little bit of work to be done in terms of finalizing and fine-tuning everything. But many of the things that were mentioned earlier by Arnaud and Nicholas are the same things we're doing in terms of buffets, service, the room service. How do you do room service now? Is it disposable, like a Starbucks? Or do we leave it outside, knock on the door, and run away? So there's still some things to work out in terms of the fine-tuning. But a lot of discussion with the team, discussing how do we do this to build consensus and making sure that we adhere to the Department of Health regulations. We adhere to the Marco Polo standards, and that way we have that blend of the best.
And one last question, Brian, before we bring everybody back, because there are several other things that we need to talk about. How has it been dealing with different stakeholders? Now, you never really shut down, so there is still cash flow coming in, but it truly is a different way of operating. Different expectations that have to be established. How have you kept in touch with the owners and the guests and associates? What has worked for you? Tell us some success stories, please.
We've got a very good relationship with our owners. I probably talk to the owners, some representatives of the owners, once a week at the minimum. We have an owner's rep right on property, so I have lunch 2 or 3 times a week with him to keep him updated, because we believe in transparency. We believe in education. We want them to know exactly what we're doing. We want their feedback. Our owners also own the Grand Hyatt in Manila, so obviously they're hotel savvy, and I think they like to compare how each hotel is doing. So we stay very informed with them. Our corporate office. In fact, I was on the phone today to Dr. Jennifer Cronin, talking about a few issues of how we can help each other, how the corporate office can help us. So really, it's about keeping those phone lines open, talking, not being shy with the associates. We have a movie night. We have Zumba training, because remembering these staff are in now, which will be 65 days, and we're hoping on Monday we can finally be free to get out and smell the fresh air. But yeah, I think communication is the key, being frank and honest and transparent. And if we don't know the answer, we tell them we don't know the answer. And once we find out, then we share that information with them.
Terrific, terrific. Sam, if you don't mind, let's bring everybody back together. And my first question, and I think I'll go to Arnaud first, if that's okay. Tell us, from a sustainability point of view, Arnaud, what new initiatives you putting into place? Arnaud, you're on mute. Arnaud, you're on mute.
My apologies.
Not at all. Not at all.
Gotcha.
My French blood came through.
well, the good thing is we don't have to restart.
Yeah. Yeah, we were very active on sustainability front before, where we can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Hello.
Yeah, you good?
You're good. Yeah, good.
Okay. Yeah, so we had a lot of sustainability effort that were placed before all of this happened. But after the COVID-19 situation, my biggest headache is, what are we going to do with all these masks and all these gloves and all these plastic protection PPE and all the containers for the sanitizing hand sanitizers, and it has been a nightmare. So we have a full recycle solution on property, and when I say full recycle solution, it's really a full recycle solution. Can you hear me?
Yes, Arnaud, you coming clearly.
Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we have a full recycle solution on the hotel, where we recycle 100% of our waste. No waste goes to landfill. So now we'll have to include all of these masks and all of these sanitizing bottles into a recycling process. And that has been a little bit of a dilemma and a challenge. But we found the solution for all, which is good news.
Terrific. Nick, you had brought up about the wellness component, that people are really seeking that out. I think that's going to really be one of the most important elements in our hotels. Help us understand, how have you been able to attend to that? Is your spa servicing? Is your fitness center open? Is the food that people are looking for, is that different at this particular point?
I think from the actual facility perspective, we're fully operational and have been for several weeks already, and we see constant growth in spa revenue. The health club has, if I was to give you a statistic, we would have between 150 and 200 users a day being members or hotel guests. Before COVID-19, now we're seeing 300 to 350. Yeah, so there is almost a 35-40% increase in usage. The swimming pool is very popular, but in addition to that, some of the programming that we've been doing, especially with our open space, with regards to yoga, Zumba, stretch classes during the actual weekends, has been very popular as well. We've partnered with some very big brands that are within our complex as well. So with Lululemon and those guys, and they've been able to bring in some expertise and attract business as well. Yeah, so it's been very good. On the food and beverage side of things, we've noticed that people are looking for great value for money. They're not looking for gimmicks. They're looking for probably the food that they weren't able to enjoy at home. But also one of the areas that has really, really grown is we've started home delivery. And our home delivery business, we're doing between 50 and 80 covers a day. And that's people ordering into their offices or ordering into their homes and from our restaurants. So I think that's where the F&B market has changed slightly. Are people looking for healthy food per se? I haven't seen that just yet.
Well, thank you. In as we open up, as we try to welcome our guests, and with increased business volumes, how do you think that the guest experience will have changed when we get back to normal business levels? And Brian, if you don't mind, I'll start with you.
I think the challenge is you're taking a 180-seat cafe, and now it's going to be only 90 seats. And so I think, do we have to take reservations? Do we have to have prepayment? We're looking at all those options. Is how do we make sure we can do enough business, and how do we make sure we keep people safe? With the fact, for example, there's a ban on alcohol. We can't serve alcohol now, so the bar is going to be quiet until they release the ban. We have a curfew at 8 p.m. So you have to start what we call a senior citizen dinner club. So everybody has to come to dinner at 4:30 or 5, so you can get home on time before curfew. So as I said, we're still at the bottom of that V, and the senior citizen club is doing really well. People come in early, and then they go home early. And everybody's drinking tea and apple juice. So we're all very healthy. But I agree with Nicholas that people are going to want a lot of that comfort food they weren't able to get at home. And they're coming out, and they're actually maybe not eating quite as healthy as we'd expected. They're actually being a little overindulgent and enjoying a good meal because they haven't been able to for a while.
Particularly while you're...
Yes.
Okay. Particularly while you are experiencing a prohibition, I think the antidote of that is going to be a bottle service, I think, when you open.
Yeah, we expect a lot of thirsty people will be descending upon us for a good glass of wine and a nice steak.
Arnaud, how do you think it'll evolve from a leisure guest and a resort destination point of view?
I think that there are going to be certain already in trend that are going to be even further reinforced. And you were mentioning earlier that although from on a short-term basis, I think people want to find their comfort food again, but I think it's a short-term basis because you have a crave that you have not had for the last 6 months and then or 3 months, and suddenly you really want to go for it. But on a more sustainable basis, on a more longer-term basis, I think people are going to be even more into health and safety, and it was already a trend before. I mean, I just think that it's going to be even further reinforced. I think people would like to have to respect nature even more. So anything that you do in sustainability initiative will have to be reinforced. And if you don't, I think you're going to have to have a minimum element of them. I think people are going to be a bit more concerned about that. Anything to do with wellness, that build your immune system, anything to do with health. We do walk in the forest, for example, like forest therapy, yoga, tai chi, pilates, reiki. All of these activities will continue being in very high demand, but even further. I think that there's going to be even more demand along those kind of activities. And in the food and beverage department, again, I think, me personally, I think on the longer term basis, more simpler food, more dietary requirements, more emphasis on things that are a bit more healthy. Diet will be popular. That's where I see in leisure and in a ultra luxury segment trends either more reinforced or changing slightly.
Nick, a question for you before I turn it over to Sam. What else can we do to gain consumer confidence that health and safety is undoubtedly a top priority for the hotels and things are going to be looked after for them?
I think the communication aspect, David, is the key. Obviously, you can sanitize, you can clean to a certain extent, and you can demonstrate that. But the way in which people are beginning to change and understand what we are doing is becoming very normal very quickly. If I think back, 4 months ago, we were all going about our business normally. Now everybody almost expects you to be greeting them with a mask if you haven't seen them. Your hand sanitizer stands in the lobby, and standing about a meter apart from one another, queuing up for reception or checkout or whatever it may be. It is very much normal, and people don't think about it. And I guess the reinforcement of that, one of the things that I've noticed in some areas is that it had become a little relaxed, and there was a re-emphasis of how important it was when there was a couple of extra outbreaks that came out. And that, I think, helped in push forward. Is that we really can't let our guard down at the moment. And I think, as we all spoke earlier before we came live, was it's very much dependent on this vaccine. And until that point, the expectation will be to have a certain level of hygiene, and it needs to be communicated and maintained. And I think that us as hoteliers with our teams, we really need to continue to reinforce that, because we all know that it can get stale quite quickly if it is not revisited.
Human nature, we start to take things for granted and we relax and let our guards down. But in this particular environment, it behooves us to constantly be vigilant with how we do things, what we're doing. Sam, over to you, please.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Wolfie Malik, who has joined us today. He has a couple of questions I will post on the screen, but I will read them. How are you holding the rates of rooms and food and beverage pricing in your hotels? Is it same as before, or is there an adjustment? Maybe you can start with Nick.
The rate, the bedroom rate, we're at our lowest bar rate, and we're selling that, and we've also opened a number of packages, including breakfast. They've been well appreciated by our guests. Our corporate guests, we've offered 5% discount on all of their rates already, just automatically, just to recognize the That's there, and we're also open, as I mentioned earlier, to flexible pricing. On the meetings and events, basically anything that comes through the door very openly to everybody out there is, I think you have to have a very open mind. And as long as you're not losing money, you probably will want to have that business, especially if you're getting some bedrooms as well. With regards to F&B, one of the things that I've noticed is people are not looking for a cheaper price. They're just looking for good quality and for a feeling of comfort. And we've offered some value for money. Our steakhouse has been doing some great family packages. And as I've mentioned, the pricing on our delivery service, obviously taking that down a notch and making some of the delivery items a little bit more affordable has been very popular. So very interesting opening the buffet back up and how that was perceived by our guests, because obviously it's a different product. So we positioned that in a slightly different way, and the pricing was probably about 30% less because, frankly speaking, it wasn't as opulent as it could have been because you just can't do it with the safety considerations. So I think you can hold out on your price to a certain extent, but you need to listen to your customer, especially your big corporates and the people that are giving you your volume, because they've been hurting as well. But one of the things that I think also, or I know that I would emphasize, is that there's a lot of discount companies out there, and they're very keen to try and make some money out of this situation. And they'll come and promise you a lot of volume for a bargain basement price. And you really have to look at that cost analysis and whether there is really a break-even point in that piece of business. And we've walked away from a number of bits of business that have not made sense to do, because ultimately it would have made us further down the chute. And the last sort of trinket maybe for everybody is try and get some of your operation up and running sooner rather than later, because it obviously lowers the damage that it's doing to your bottom line. Even if you're just doing a little bit of business in certain areas, your staff are probably on owed overtime or owed days to the hotel already. So the cost is already there. So try to get some business back in. And that really worked very well from a guest perspective as well, because they felt that we understood that they wanted somewhere to come. So yeah, from a pricing perspective and a sort of overall opening up strategy, I hope that gives people a few ideas.
Thank you. And how about your situation in Cebu?
Yeah, we've also looked at the menus in terms of making sure they offer a good value. We've simplified them to a certain degree because of oftentimes being on a remote island, getting supplies can be inconsistent. So we don't want to have things that are 86, they're running out. In terms of banquets, yes, we've tried to be creative. We've offered packages to the pharma where they can stay overnight. The next day they go down to a meeting room where they have a Zoom launching of a new drug or a new product or an update on an existing product. So anything that we can get in the doors, we're working on. And as I said, once we raise that the liquor ban, we'll certainly be doing a lot more in the lobby lounge. So we're looking forward to that.
Very good. Thank you. And Arnaud, how about you?
Well, in your previous platform, I hear one of your speakers saying that they are going to try to maintain their rates, and they are doing their best and they will maintain their rate. In a situation like we have today, I would like to know how that's even possible, because there is no way on earth when we are attracting only a regional market or even local market that your rates are going to be maintained. Because the consumer doesn't have the same spending power. A lot of pockets have been hurt, whether it's corporate, but even individual pockets have been hurt very, very badly. They still want to get a great holiday, but you can't obviously charge the same rate that you used to before, unfortunately, and that's a reality. So packages we were putting in place packages. A lot of people would like to also ensure there is no headache, right? So paying for little bits and pieces here and there, which always irritate customers anyway. I think they're going to be even more irritated. So you get more package with include elements like food board, packages or spa packages if you have to open the spa, etc., etc. And that's what we've done. We created packages that are a lot of inclusion. Yeah. Now you still have to maintain a certain level of rate integrity, especially on your bar rate. So that's what we are doing, and we do a lot of below the line, very targeted packages to very particular type of group of people, either the golfers or the yoga club of this world, etc., where a lot of inclusion are in it, and we've received a lot of future booking because of that, and because it's very, very targeted, and also your price are not published. Food and beverage will follow the trend of the rooms, especially in a resort hotel. We are very much dependent of our guests in rooms, unlike city hotels where they have a lot of outside guests coming to their restaurant. For us, it's only guests from the hotel or 90% of our business. So obviously the F&B prices will have to be in relation to what they pay for the rooms, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So yes, there will be also some F&B prices are going to be revisited down in order to satisfy the type of customers we're going to get. And mainly for the next 3 months to 6 months down the track, they're going to be local and regional business.
Very good. Well, thank you. Abid, we've been here on live for about 1.5 hours, so I think our guests have there's some exhaustion factor kicking in here. So maybe a feel-good story to wrap up this session would be in place.
Absolutely. Again, we've run over, so we always like to close with feel-good stories. Something you might have learned about yourself when we talked earlier about learning how to be patient in this environment, but something that you might have learned, something that you might have observed before we close our session. So let me start with Brian.
Well, we talk about health, and I decided that I needed to get healthier. And so as a result of our COVID situation here, the pandemic and the lockdown, I've been going to the gym regularly now, 5 days a week. I've lost several kilos. I've firmed up a bit. So I've learned that I need to stay healthy and remain healthy. And I will continue this even after the pandemic's over and the lockdown is over. So for me, it's been a great experience. I've really got myself back in shape. And so I'm feeling better about myself, and I feel great. And looking forward to coming out of this V and going straight up like you, Nicholas. We'll be right behind you soon.
Superb. Thank you for sharing that. That's new Brian for you. Nicholas, if I may ask you to share some of your things.
I think obviously it's just a reassurance of how good humans can be in a very, very difficult circumstance. And we've had a number of rescue stories of pulling people out of situations where maybe they were stuck. And on this occasion, we've had some guests that have been with us that have been very concerned and very worried about family, and we've had the opportunity to be able to reach out, and some of our staff have really gone above and beyond to do that. So just a reaffirmment of how people pull together in very, very difficult circumstances. It is really something that I watch in awe over the last few months, and even as we've come out of this, you can tell that people probably have a slightly different outlook on life. I think the reset button was pressed quite firmly on this situation, and even those toughest guests that we haven't seen for a while that are back are happy to be back, and maybe have got a slightly different demeanor at the moment.
Well, thank you. You're spot on. Whilst we've had to be physically apart, I think this thing has almost forced us to look at how we interact with each other, whether it's in person or digitally. So thanks for sharing that. Last but not least, Arnaud, before we close the session, anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, again, it's the same. I feel that the people have really come out of their shell in helping others. And the example, I have a very good example to give that I've been contacted by many of our regular guests, and when I'm saying many, is many regular guests. They said, Arnaud, like every business, we know that your cash flow is going to suffer. We love your employees very, very much. So we would like to offer you to pay in advance for our next sale, so that you can get some cash flow through the door, and they paid in full. Sometimes 3 to 4 weeks holidays at the Datai, it's not cheap. So that's a great. I think that's a great story, and we've already related that to our employees. And that's what's very much heartwarming for them too.
No, superb. If you notice anything in the industry that is worth sharing to the general populace, please share that on #HospitalityHeroes, because it is critical that we recognize our associates. At the end of the day, they are really in front lines and having to learn a lot of new things as we open up. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Arnaud. Thank you, Brian. Great insights. Thanks for being with us, and our apologies for the delay. We really appreciate your knowledge sharing and look forward to watching you break all past records.
Thank you, Abil, and thank you, Sam. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Abil.
Well, and finally, I want to thank.
Friday.
Thank you. I want to thank all the viewers. I want to mention and a shout out to who join us on LinkedIn: Abdul Bagil, Catherine Bartz, Darren Mulqueen. There's Wolfie Malik, Tony from in Chiang Mai, and Robert Rajetsky based in Florida. So they are among few people who has just put a comment or into the live stream. So really pleased to have a worldwide audience today again. And since these LinkedIn replays tend to sooner or later disappear, so it's good if you go to our YouTube channel, Hospitality Talks, and that's where you can see all our episodes that we have been featuring. And when you're on YouTube, just look out for this next video here. It's going to be showing up in this space here, where we talked with the earlier general managers about their experiences, how they are planning their reopening. So in this sense, I just want to say thank you very much to all of you who have joined this session, and we'll be back next week with another session. So thanks again, and be safe, and hope all will be well for you.
Thank you.